Hi, I'm Bob Henry, Product Manager at Epilog Laser. With over 30 years of laser system design and manufacturing experience, and building on our success with the state-of-the-art Fusion Pro laser, we're really excited to introduce the new laser system, the Fusion Edge. Today we'll be demonstrating the new Edge machine along with our updated Epilog job management software suite. In 2019, we introduced the Fusion Pro, our top-of-the-line, large format laser cutting and engraving system. With the new Fusion Edge machine, we've integrated the same modern camera system, high-speed engraving, touchscreen display control, and delivered it in a compact and affordable package. Laser engraving and cutting technology is an invaluable tool for manufacturers, designers, engineers, creatives, students, just about anyone who needs marking, cutting, and engraving capabilities. We're continuing to deliver advanced features and functionality while improving accessibility by making this incredibly versatile equipment easier to use. Today we're going to feature the new Fusion Edge 12, CO2, and fiber-based laser systems. We're going to emphasize engraving speeds up to 120 inches per second, our iris camera positioning system, laser touchscreen display, the safeguard features of the Fusion machines, and of course we'll be doing some engraving and cutting along the way. Thanks for joining us today. With that, let's get started. Before we start processing some materials in the Fusion Edge machine, let's talk a little bit about the availability of lasers and sizes. With the Fusion Edge 12 machine, it has a 24-inch by 12-inch work area, offered with 30, 40, 50, or 60 watt laser tubes. We also offer the Edge 12 machine with a 30 watt fiber laser for metal marking and engineered plastic marking applications. Let's take a quick tour inside the machine before we start some material processing. The front door of the machine is tempered glass, safety interlocked like all Epilog lasers to ensure safe operation. The first thing you'll notice is the ferromagnetic integrated vector grid. Of course, this is magnetized. If you're working with material that has a slight warp to it, it's really nice to just use magnets and drop them on the material. That'll keep the material nice and flat for engraving and cutting applications. We've got the slightly oversized 24 by 12-inch work area here. Now let's talk about our lens assembly. There's some really unique features in here. Using the joystick control on the control panel, I'll move the lens assembly out to the middle of the table so we can see that a little bit better. First thing you'll notice here is this tubing. This is the air assist. All Epilog Edge machines are built with air assist included. You'll notice the tube comes down into the cone. This creates a positive pressure where we're always blowing air through the cone. The intent is to provide for good and clean cutting applications, but also to protect the optic inside of the cone assembly. Another really unique feature with this machine is the autofocus. It's built into our lens assembly here, so when you have autofocus selected in our job management software, the table is going to come up and engage the material. It's going to depress the cone, and then it's going to come back down to the proper focal distance. We've got a 2mm actuator in here that serves as our autofocus. It works really well, super convenient for a variety of different things. If you're more interested or prefer to do manual focus, we have a great little focus gauge here that hangs on the front of the machine, hangs right there, and then you'll raise the table up until the material engages the gauge, and then you can just simply take this off and you're ready to go. For our rotary device that's available with this machine, we have a secondary focus gauge location here that provides for the gauge to be centerline over the axis of the rotary. So two really convenient locations to do the manual focus work. With the table lowered, you'll see that we have some downdraft vents built into the back side of the machine. This allows for smoke to be pulled out the bottom of the machine and then sucked out through the plenum through these ports here. You'll also notice that we've got the rotary attachment plug device right there. If you're doing rotary work, marking cylinders with our rotary attachment, of course this would plug in here. Another unique thing you'll see on all Fusion machines is this interesting pattern on the inside of the machine. This is installed in all Edge and Pro machines. This is used to calibrate the camera systems in the machine. Integrated into every Epilog Fusion product is our safeguard features. This includes a belt system here, which is really tight on the rail that keeps contaminants, debris, smoke from migrating into the bearing system located behind the belt. And then on the side of the machine, you'll notice that we have bellows that keep particulates and contaminants from migrating outside of the workspace. Ideally, we have all of the particulates and smoke going through the back of the machine, through the plenum, but these safeguard features are built in just to keep the contaminants, the smoke, the debris from migrating off to the side of the machine as well. As part of the vector grid setup, we have an integrated crumb tray that's located in the bottom of the machine. This is really handy for when you're cutting small pieces and some of those pieces fall through to the bottom of the laser. With the front service panel removed, we now have access to the crumb tray. You'll notice that we've got some material that have dropped through the vector grid. With the crumb tray, it's really easy to collect those materials and dump them into the garbage and then replace the tray when you're done. With all Fusion products from Epilog, we have the ability to connect to the computer through either a network cable or a USB cable. You'll also notice that we have a laser status indicator light bank here. And over here we have exhaust control. This is coming soon, where the laser can control the function on and off of the exhaust fan. This last port is a little USB port where you would upgrade the firmware to the laser system. Periodically, when we make improvements or changes to the firmware that controls the laser system, we'll issue that through our website. Really easy to download that and then plug it into this port, and that automatically takes you through an upgrade sequence through the machine. Let's take a few minutes and talk about the control panel on the Fusion Edge machine. You'll notice that it's a 7-inch touchscreen display. At the bottom, we've got the start button. This is how you start a job. If you wanted to pause it midway through, you could press that button as well. Here's the joystick that controls the movement of the gantry and also the focus. Here you'll see we have the up and down arrow. This is our focus button. If we press that, and then we can lower and raise the table as we need to. If we wanted to perform a autofocus function here, we could do that through this control panel by pressing the autofocus button. The next button is simply the red dot pointer. This is just a simple toggle on and off. This is a really handy tool for previewing work or locating a relocatable home position if you're using center engraving type of applications. And then the last button on the control panel is the joystick. So we press that. This gives us the ability then to move the gantry wherever we want over the entire workspace. We have the ability to do autofocus here as well. This is a really neat feature here. I'm going to show this to you. This is called our trace feature. If we pick a particular job and then press the trace feature on the control panel, it's going to trace all around where our particular job is going to go. This is handy just to make sure that if you've got an odd shaped item, that where the graphic is going to go is in the space that you intend it to. Again, this is just a simple toggle. You can move this around, let this run, and then place your object under that, and then simply turn it off when you're done. At the top of the control panel, you notice that we have some functions here. This stack is our jobs list. This allows you to select the job that you want to run. So by simply pressing on it and highlighting it, that job will be selected and you can run that. If you wanted more detail about the information on that job, you can press and hold. It gives you a little thumbnail sketch of what the graphic is going to look like. It also gives you information on speed, power, and the resolution that we're going to run on that job. Really handy feature for verifying that you're running the right job and that you've selected the correct speed and power combination. I'll go back to the jobs list here. I'm going to open up a different job. If I wanted to save this job in the laser, so if I come back to it in a couple days, want to rerun it, and I don't want to have to print it from the software, I can press the save button. By doing so, I've saved that job in the laser itself. So I turn the laser off and come back the next day and turn it back on. That job will auto-populate in the control panel. In the settings tab, this is where we set up a new machine. So when you get a new Epilog Edge machine, you'll want to go through these setup steps. The first one is, what language do you want to run? If we program through, it prompts you to set up your exhaust. The next step is really pretty neat. We include with each machine some anodized aluminum that allows you to program a job into the machine. You'll see this is our Epilog demo that comes with a machine. Place your anodized aluminum on the bed of the laser and the machine will run it automatically for you. If we go back into the setup function just to make sure that everything is complete, here we select whether we're going to run USB or Ethernet or wireless connection. Select one of those. Here's instructions for you to install the software suite on your computer. information about how to save a job. You'll notice this little save icon. You can save a job at the control panel in the jobs list by just pressing that button. And then finally, congratulations, you're all set up. We're going to spend a few minutes now talking about the Epilog software suite. You'll notice on screen here that we've got some graphics loaded in. We're going to push this through to the Epilog software suite. So when you click on print, you get this dialog box, and here you just simply click on print, and that will send this job over to the software suite. You'll notice that we've got our image that we processed through CorelDRAW. You'll also notice that we've got the camera view. We're looking at down on the table where we've got 4 coasters set up. You'll also notice that we've got this area here. This is the engravable area. This area comes through to the software suite, the same page size that you sent over through CorelDRAW or similar software. To make sure that we can engrave in the space that we need to, we just simply click on that border, and then we drag that engravable area over, and now we have a clean area where we can do the engraving on these coasters. So again, you notice we've got a good camera view looking down on the bed of the laser. You see our graphics sitting here. We sent this graphic over as one grouped item. So we'll need to separate these so then we can move those graphics around and place them on those coasters for engraving. So to do that, you just simply click on the object and then click over here, which is the ungroup. And then we have the ability then to select each of these items, and we can just move them around. One of the really nice features with the software suite is the ability to zoom in. This gives you a lot better scaling so you can place the artwork a little bit better. I'm going to grab this one here and move it over as well. You'll notice, of course, that the graphic is much too large to fit on that coaster. So in the software suite, we can reduce this size down to what we want. We also have the ability to rotate that graphic here as well, which is a great feature. You can rotate to a specific angle, or you can use this function over here and rotate to an exact angle. So if you select 90 degrees for that, you'll see that our graphic rotates around 90 degrees. So I'm going to zoom in on this and get this object placed nice and center on the coaster there. And then I'm going to zoom out again and grab the next object. I'm going to pull this over, and then again zooming in with just the wheel on my mouse, I'm able to place that object. That looks a little bit large for that space, so I'm going to shrink this one down a little bit and then move it to the center as well. I like to use those bounding boxes, the black boxes around the graphic, as a tool to help me center using the camera on the object to be engraved. And then we'll bring our bear over here. Same idea. We're going to scale this down and drop that in the middle. Maybe make that a little bit bigger so the bear takes up a little more space on our coaster. And that looks pretty good right there. So we're ready to engrave at this point. So you'll notice that we've got all of the graphic images that we sent over as one group. We've split those apart, and then we've moved those around, manipulated the location. In this case, we rotated the image as well. So now we're ready to engrave. A few other things I'd like to show you here with the software suite functionality before we move on is the group and ungroup function. This is what we did when we sent the 4 images over, but we needed to separate those in order to place them on the individual items to be engraved. This allows us to select a specific location where we want to move a graphic. So if we wanted that to be at 10.5 inches over, we could just simply click on the 5 here, and you'll notice that it'll move our graphic. Great way to do very specific and detailed location marking as well. Today we're just using our camera function for the locating those parts. You can change the size of the object as well. If we wanted to make that 3 inches in height, you'll notice that it gets bigger as well. And then of course Control-Z, the undo button, will always bring you back to the original size of the object. So at this point we're ready to engrave. A few of the things I want to show you here. We have the processes, which is the engraving and or cutting. We are just engraving with this job, so we're not actually using any vector cutting functionality. So you'll notice that the job came through. It's listed over here. We can set up the resolution to any specific value that we want. Most of the time, engraving looks really good, especially on wood at 500 dpi. If you're doing more detailed, smaller engraving, you might set that a little bit higher, but generally you can set the engraving for wood at 500 DPI. The default when the job comes through to the software suite is 500, but also you can set a resolution for any value that you want. I could set it for 832, so it's fully scalable from 1 to 1200 DPI. We'll switch this back to 500 here because that's a good value for this. The speed we can set as well. We can set any speed value combinations. We've got a great library built into the software suite as well. Our laser system manual has those same data for laser system parameters also. We're going to use a standard dithering pattern here. These are dithering patterns that work really well for some objects. We developed these with photograph engraving. There are a lot of good photograph specific software out there now. But yeah, generally you can set different dithering patterns, which gives you a slightly different dot placement, laser dot placement when you're engraving. Here I'm going to show you this really cool import function. When you build a library of material settings, you can click on those, click on the import button, and then click on the coasters, and then it'll import those values that we want to use. You'll see that those data changed now from speed 60 to a power 100 for this particular job. So it's a really powerful tool for you to save laser parameters for different materials. You can categorize them by material type or maybe a customer name, but it's a really handy way to categorize all of your laser parameter work and then recall that, just import that later without having to reference the manual or the guide here in the software suite. So at this point we're ready to print. A couple more things I want to show you here with the main tabs at the top of the page. The processes tab, this just gives you a larger blowout of all of the laser processes. Over here you'll see the direction, engraving direction. This would indicate that we're engraving from the bottom of the objects to the back of the machine, to the top of the object. And here we would be engraving from the top down to the bottom. I'm going to select the bottom to top engraving for this. And then again, all of the laser parameters are set here. The advanced tab is a really handy feature as well. The standard or the engraving type, we're going to be doing standard. We also can do rubber stamp and 3D engraving, but for our work today it's standard engraving. We could also specify the number of copies. So if you're trying to get really deep into wood and you want to maybe run 2 or 3 passes, you can select 3 there. That will automatically do 1 and then 2 and then 3 passes over the objects to give you more depth into the material. We're just going to be doing 1 pass today, or 1 copy. The centering point is a really handy feature too. We're not going to go into a lot of detail here, but this allows you to select, move the lens assembly in the laser system and select a specific point on the object that you want to engrave. If you selected center, that red spot that is illuminating on your object to be engraved would be the center of that graphic. So here we're just going to select none because we've got it all set up with our camera view. Notes allows you to put in any notes specific to the job that you're working on. So a lot of really great features here. And then also I want to show you here, we can give this a different name. If you're sending over a lot of jobs to the laser, they're all going to populate in the 7-inch touchscreen display, so you can select any one of those graphics. I find that if I change the name of this particular file, I'm able to more easily locate the file that I'm looking for. Just another handy feature. Here we can select a variety of different laser systems to print from as well. With all of the Epilog lasers, you're able to print from one computer to any number of Epilog lasers through a network connection. Similarly, if you have a network computer, you can print from any network computer to any networked Epilog laser. So a really handy feature here, you're just selecting the machine that you want to print to. So here we're going to print to 3.13, which is the IP address that we've established for this particular job. So now we're ready to go. We're going to press on the print button, and the job will be sent over to the laser. Once we've sent the job to the laser system, you'll notice on the control panel that we have a number of jobs loaded up in here. The last job that we sent over is the forest animals job. You'll see that that's highlighted. If I wanted to run that job, of course I would want to highlight it, but if I wanted to do Epilog demo or the security tags job, I would just simply click on it with the touchscreen display, and then I'm able to run that job. Before we do that, let's verify that we have the correct focus set up. So at the display panel, I'm going to use the joystick command, and I'm going to run the lens assembly over to the object that we're going to engrave on. And then at the display panel, I'm going to click on autofocus. You notice the table comes up. It engages a autofocus plunger built into the cone assembly. It goes through a lift process. The lens assembly is engaged and the table comes back down to the correct focal distance for this job. I'll hit reset and then back to our jobs list. Of course, I need to close the door in order for the laser to fire, so I'm going to close the door, and then once I've selected the job on the control panel, I click on the start button. Now recall that we set this up to engrave from the bottom to the top, so it always goes to the bottom object, and then it's going to engrave from the front of the machine to the back of the machine. Once the job's complete, we can open the door and inspect our engraving. You'll see that that camera does a really nice job of accurately locating those parts. Always good to be under camera center for the most accurate placement, but you can see we've got some really nice engraving into that wood. Our next project is going to be some rough cut wood. We're going to place this on the bed of the Edge 12 machine, CO2 based laser. So we put it on the bed of the laser anywhere in the middle, kind of under camera center. Here we're showing the autofocus sequence. Once that's done, we're in the correct focal plane for the material. And then we send the artwork over. With all Epilog laser systems, we're able to use a variety of software programs. Here we're using Adobe Illustrator. CorelDRAW is quite popular as well. Many different software programs work really well with the Epilog machines, kind of a personal preference. So here we're just printing the image over to the laser system. You can see that we've got camera view from our iris camera system looking down onto the bed of the laser. We can see our wood there. Here we're just adjusting the size of the artwork to fit on the material. We can rotate it. We can also scale it to fit the object. And then once that's done, we're ready to go. So now we'll set the laser parameters for this particular job. It's a soft wood, so we'll use a little bit lower resolution. We know some good laser parameters for wood, so we'll plug those in now. And then once that's done, we'll print the job over to the laser system. Once you print the job over to the laser system, it'll show up on the display panel. This is a 7-inch touchscreen display that will show all the jobs that you've loaded into the laser system. To select the job you want, simply touch it on the display panel and then hit the start button and the engraving will start. Once the laser system is finished, we'll open the door and take a look. You can see we've got some really nice contrast here, a little bit softer wood, a really nice color on there. Amazingly simple to set this up with the iris camera system. One of the many amazing features of the Fusion Edge products is, of course, with the overhead camera, we're able to take a picture of an item on the bed of the laser. In this case, we're going to do just that and use that picture to create a jig to engrave on multiple items. So here we'll just use a nice white background, place our object that we're going to create the jig for on the bed of the laser. We'll focus, of course, so we're in the correct focal plane, so we have a good, accurate, dimensional representation of the part that we're creating the jig for. So once that's done, we'll move the lens assembly out of the way, and then we'll print over to our software suite. Here's the overhead view looking down on the table with our part installed. In our software suite, we can take a picture of this background. So we're going to do that using the button on the upper left there. It looks like the panorama with a small magnifying glass in it. And once we're done there, we can export that image into common software. Again, CorelDRAW, Adobe Illustrator. So here we've loaded that image into CorelDRAW. Now we'll go through some bitmap editing features within CorelDRAW to clean up that image. The first thing we'll do is to get rid of some of the background. So we're just going to crop out some of that background, use just the image of the part for our bitmap tracing function. Once that's done, we're going to use the bitmap trace function and kind of break this thing apart. Here we can use a variety of different techniques to get an image that works really well. Here we can set different levels of color in there. You'll notice that there are a number of different colors, so if we set that down to just a few, we get more of a consistent image to process. We won't go into a lot of detail about how to set up this artwork in CorelDRAW. Really, we just want to demonstrate the ability to take a picture of the image. There's the original image and the modified image through Corel Trace. And now we're going to really just create a cut line around that image that we've created. Once we have that shape all set, then we select an outline, a hairline cut line around that, and we get rid of the fill. Of course, the laser recognizes hairline as a cut line, and then we'll apply laser parameters for that cutting for these objects. So here we're just duplicating that image across the page. We've got a 24 by 12 inch work area in the Fusion Edge 12 machine. So we're just going to populate that entire space with these images that we've created. Once the graphic image is complete, we'll load up our template material onto the bed of the laser. We're just using common architectural or signage plastic here. The image is all set up. Now we'll go into the software suite. Here we've turned the camera off. We don't really need the camera on for this. We've already created the image. We know we're just going to be cutting the material. So we'll set laser parameters that we know work really well for that plastic material, and then click on print. And again, the job gets sent over to the laser. The CO2 laser in the Fusion Edge 12 machine is a wonderful wavelength of light for so many different types of materials. This is just one example of the many types of materials that you can engrave and cut with the laser system. The iris camera system in the Fusion Edge machines are incredibly versatile. They're great for locating artwork on a particular item, but they're also really useful for this type of application where we're using the camera in the system to help us to build a jig for engraving or cutting on a variety of components. Once we've cut the images or the shapes out of the template material, then we can load up our parts. For this particular job, we're just engraving 5 of the items. So in CorelDRAW software, we'll select those 5 that we want to engrave. Of course, you could load up the entire jig with as many parts will fit. In this case, we're just going to do 5, so we select those 5. Here you get a display of what we're going to be engraving. And then again, set the laser parameters for this job. Once those are complete, click on print, and again, the job gets sent over to the laser system. For our customers that do a lot of repetitive part marking, this is an extremely efficient way to create fixturing or jigging for those parts. Of course, the fixture can be used many times. When you're switching between parts or different shapes, you create jigs for those different things. And you just reinstall the jig you need for the part. All of the artwork is located accordingly, and you're ready to go. With our next project, we're going to use a variety of different types of materials with different thicknesses of materials too, and show you how the color mapping feature in the Epilog software suite can be used for engraving a variety of different materials at the same time. So here we've got some images created. You see that we have leather and Duramark material, anodized aluminum, and some wood that we're going to engrave. So again, we've created the graphic image. We're using Adobe Illustrator for this job, and then again, print it over to the software suite. So here you can see the images that have been printed over. So in this case, a great feature in the software suite is to ungroup all those images. This gives us the ability then to place those individual objects wherever we want in that space. And so we ungroup those images, and then we'll be locating those specific images where they need to go, again using the camera view on the laser system to help us to accurately place those images on the item to be engraved. So here we're adjusting the location, zooming in as well to help us, so we can drag this image down, drop it right where it needs to be. You'll notice that we've got different colors in here. We're going to use those colors to help us to define laser parameters specific to those different colors. Once we've placed those images on the various materials that we're going to engrave, we'll use a great feature in here called Split by Color. So here we can have the software suite identify the different colors that we've incorporated or imported into the software. And then we can specify laser parameters specific to those different colors. Recall that the red image was wood, and so we'll use a little bit higher power, looking for a little more depth into the material. Great feature here as well, the offset feature. This tells the laser system bed to go down the distance equal to the thickness of the material. So you don't have to refocus between each of those different materials. It's done automatically through our software, giving instructions to the laser system to change the focal plane for those different thickness materials. We can also, for convenience, change the name of the color, if you will, to specify the type of material that we're going to be engraving on. Once we have all the laser parameters for those different colored objects created, then we simply click on the print button and the job gets sent over to the laser system. Using the advanced features in the Fusion Pro and Fusion Edge laser systems gives our customers the ability to do a wide variety of job setups, different types of materials, individual part marking or cutting, or in the case of this demonstration, the ability to do mixed media materials using our color mapping feature with the adjustable laser parameters and the adjustable focal plane. Really amazing feature. Most of the time our customers are using only one or a few processes. The beauty of the Epilog Fusion products is the ability to do so many different things. This was a somewhat complicated setup with a variety of different colors and thickness of materials, but just wanted to demonstrate the capabilities of the machine and the ability to do these types of engraving projects. Using Epilog's unique software suite, we were able to do a variety of different types of materials at different focal planes, all in one job setup by using our color mapping feature. Again, setting laser parameters specific to each material, using the camera system to locate the artwork, and then having the laser system table move up and down to get to the right focal plane for those different height materials. Epilog Laser manufactures a variety of CO2-based laser systems. CO2 lasers are great for a lot of organic material like wood, glass, acrylics, textiles, cork, leather, rubber. They're not particularly great for direct metal marking and engraving, however. So for our customers that need metal marking capabilities or metal engraving capabilities, we offer fiber-based systems. Fiber lasers produce a different wavelength of light than CO2, and they're really good for direct metal engraving and marking applications, both in raster and in vector format applications. Fiber lasers are great for any type of metal. They're also great for engineered plastic material. Black marble engraves quite nicely with the fiber laser as well. For those direct metal engraving and marking jobs, it's a perfect wavelength of light. Epilog offers a really affordable package on a fiber laser. We've got fiber lasers available at 30 or 50 watt levels and available in our Fusion Edge 12 and our Fusion Pro laser systems as well. Depending on the type of metals, you can achieve a variety of different types of marks with a fiber laser. Bare aluminum tends to give you a whitish color to a dark gray color. On a lot of steel and titanium materials, you can get a much wider variety of materials. The more common are a polished mark, which is kind of a whitish color. This produces really nice contrast for some materials that are a bit more reflective. And a annealed mark as well. This is more of a surface mark at the top of the metal, where we're changing the color of the surface material to a black mark. This is common in the medical device industry. They want a surface mark where they don't want engraving into the metal that could harbor bacteria. So an annealed mark, again, very common in the medical device industry. And then just general marking applications or engraving applications, we call it an etch type of mark, where we're removing a layer of material, providing some depth into the material for more permanence on a lot of materials, depending on the customer's applications and need. In terms of plastics, a CO2 laser will typically give you some depth into the material, and if it's a uniform one color plastic, you get sort of a tone on tone look. With a fiber laser, the wavelength created by the fiber laser will oftentimes give you a nice contrasting mark on the surface of the plastic. Here we're engraving some stainless steel using different types of laser parameters to achieve different types of marks on the surface of the metal. Here we've got some whitish mark, we call that the polished mark. We also have the brownish mark of the etch, and then the dark surface mark we call annealing. This particular job shows both raster and as well vector marking. Of course, vector, we're following a specific line segment, much like a plotter, where with engraving or marking, we're doing left and right, much like a printer would. This is done all in one job, again using our color mapping technique, where we assign a color to those different images on our material or in our graphic, and then applying different laser parameters to create those different looks or colors on the surface of the metal. It's all done in one job, so you don't have to send over multiple jobs. It's again just a great example of using the full features and capability of the laser system to do a variety of things in one job on one piece of material. One distinctive feature of the fiber laser is the green window that we have on the top of the laser system. We have a glass and then also a layer of Lexan material that's got an organic dye in it that will absorb the fiber laser light energy. This is important for safety reasons. All laser systems, all fiber-based laser systems will have this type of green tinting on the viewing window. Many of our customers require depth into the metal component that they're engraving. It's really easy to set that up in the software suite, where we specify the number of cycles or passes that we want the laser to do to achieve the depth that we're looking for. Of course, running a job multiple passes will produce more depth into the material. Epilog Laser fiber-based machines are an incredibly efficient way to do part marking on a variety of different shapes and sizes of material. Great for barcodes, serialization, graphic engraving into various materials as well. Thank you for joining us today. If you'd like to learn more about the Fusion Edge or any of the other Epilog Laser products, give us a call or look us up online at epiloglaser.com.